I'm Michael Bitar, and this is Cracking the Code. And today, we really wanted to investigate and dive deeply into entrepreneurial success and what's behind entrepreneurial success. And we have a local person that we thought no better to talk about this topic than Jamie Day. Jamie, welcome.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Excited to have you here today. So, Jamie is a founder and managing partner of Freshblends. That's one of his current endeavors. He's got multiple, which we'll dive into today. But Jamie, if you don't mind, let's just start with you kind of walking through a little bit. I know it's a long and successful background that you have, but walk us through where that entrepreneurial juice and excitement originally came from and what kicked it off for you.
Well, it really started in college, without getting into too much detail. But as I got into the workforce, I started looking for something to do because what I was doing, selling mutual funds to banks and financial institutions, just didn't get there for me. But as I was looking around the market, trying to figure out what seemed interesting, I saw this new phenomenon, which was the smoothie shop.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And there were a bunch of them around the beach communities in LA, Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, Redondo Beach. And what I found was a lot of long lines of people waiting to get this blended fruit that turned into a beverage.
Mm-hmm.
Thought it was super cool. What I found over time was that, this is something that's growing fast. We need to get involved in this somehow. So we approached the people that were doing this in the beach communities, and they said, well, we're not franchising. We're only doing corporate stores right now. And so, good luck in your endeavor to find that smoothie concept. I thought to myself, well, that sticks. So we started putting together our own, and we opened a smoothie shop in Hermosa Beach, California, and ran it for about a year, and then realized that, even though the concept's cool, the operations part is a lot more difficult.
Sure.
Than meets the eye. So we ended up selling that to what is now Jamba Juice.
Okay, excellent.
It was their 14th store, and met the founders and spent a lot of time, discussing the whole concept of their growth strategy and what they wanted to do with it. And it just seemed like a good, good trend that was going to continue to build throughout the country. So fast forward a few years, I ended up in South Florida. We had a company that was making frozen smoothie cocktail mix products. We built that into about a 3,500 location deal and sold it in 2015 to a private equity group. And then immediately thereafter, we started Freshblends, and that's where we are today.
Entrepreneurial success is what we're talking about. That's the topic today. And you very early on, whether it was a single location to Jamba Juice or not, you had very quick success. What do you when you think about and you self-assess a bit, Jamie? What is it about you and the people that you've surrounded yourself with that have allowed you to have multiple success points throughout your career from an entrepreneurial startup perspective?
Yeah, I think I always use the two words that really drive entrepreneurs, and the two words are hunger and fear. Hunger, you want to surround yourself with people that have similar, interests in life, which is, not to just go to work every day and do the 9-to-5 thing, but truly be able to build something into something that's meaningful and has the ability to be sold down the road for, financial, independence, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the hunger part. And the fear part is you have everything on the line.
Yeah.
Right. There's no company that's backstopping you. You're not collecting a paycheck just because you go to work every day. You're collecting a paycheck because you've been able to build something that can fund, your needs. So, hunger and fear, I think, are two vital components to being an entrepreneur. And so you need to find people that have the same mindset.
Two really powerful words, right? And you explained what they really mean in the day-to-day of business quite well there. And so finding other entrepreneurially minded individuals to be founders of a business or investors in a business is a key component. Additionally, bringing talent into the organization when it's, a small startup or early stage company. How have you been successful doing that, Jamie? And I know it's not an exact science, but I think you've done a pretty good job of it. I think you've got some pretty nice tenure in your organizations. How do you identify the team members, the employees that join you, and how their mindset does or does not kind of fit what you're building?
Yeah, and we've obviously had ups and downs in that arena, right? So lots of people we've hired from large companies that had amazing pedigrees, just the type of resume that you would never think you'd be able to attract to a small,
Sure.
call it startup or entrepreneurial type business. But you'd be amazed. Everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people that work in the corporate environment have that itch.
Yeah.
And they always wonder, how would I do in that type of environment? But what we found is that not many of them do well because they're typically used to this backstop. Like I said, as long as they go to work, paycheck's there, and they don't really have to worry about, where the cash comes from or, how that happens. But what we found is people that have less of that big corporate environment are closer to the ones that can work in an entrepreneurial environment.
No, and it's an interesting point because we battle the same thing as we're supporting organizations and helping them hire talent, and we're talking to individuals in the marketplace. What you said is so spot on. A lot of people that are spokes in that big corporate wheel, and there's great organizations out there that are of size, have that entrepreneurial itch, but they get enamored with the excitement of having a little more freedom and less bureaucracy. And I don't mean freedom not to work hard, but freedom to be more creative and have a little bit less bureaucracy until they're in that environment. Then they realize, oh, wait a minute, maybe this is a little bit more than I was anticipating and wanting. So that's kind of a dynamic that we are really diving into on a daily basis to try and get to know the human being before we even start to talk about opportunities. And I think it helps. It doesn't guarantee that the fit is going to be perfect, but it helps to minimize the mistakes or the missteps, I guess, if you will.
You need to find individuals that can work well on an island, right? Because you get into, in a corporate infrastructure, you typically have people in your department that are supporting you.
Correct.
So you can have a good idea that needs to be executed, but you let the people that are underneath you or people that are working for you support you with the execution component. Whereas, many times in a smaller company, you're kind of doing it on your own. Mm-hmm. So you need to be able to, come up with the concept and then also execute at the same time, which, a lot of people also aren't built for that. You're either one that comes up with the idea and someone else takes care of the execution, or you're the executor. Very few people have the ability to do both of those tasks the right way.
No, that's an excellent point. In the conversations you and I have had over the years, Jamie, one of the things that has stood out to me is it seems that, and I know this is not an exact science either, but that you've had a pretty good sense of when's the right time to hold the business and when's the right time to really start to look at potential exits or transitions. And I know there's no exact science to that, but could you speak to that a little bit in terms of what are the drivers and some of the key components that you and some of your partners have utilized throughout your career?
Yeah. I mean, I think simply it's about what's the remaining opportunity, right? So if you see a runway for a remaining opportunity that's, like this and quite steep, then, it's probably, even if market conditions are right to sell, it's probably not the right time to get out. But, if things have leveled off, you're running into growth challenges, let's say the macro environment isn't quite where it needs to be to continue to support your growth. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of those types of factors that come into play. And then, quite frankly, we look at the financial part of it, which is, how are the multiples in the market? Yep. Right now, cost of capital is really high. So the private equity guys, the strategic acquirers, they're not valuing businesses at the same multiple that they did when when interest rates were 2%, 3%. Sure. So, there's also that macro component. You might be at a perfect stage to sell, but, you leave a lot of money on the table by being in an environment where money is restrictive.
Oh, thank you for that. I think a lot of people that are interested in getting into the entrepreneurial space, whether launching their own business or becoming part of a smaller or earlier stage company, they've got these grandeur ideas that there's going to be this exit. I'm going to, get 5, 10, 20, 30x of whatever money that I personally put in or equity that I've earned from a sweat equity perspective. And it's just a really hard thing to get accomplished. So I commend you on what you guys have done. Let's go back to, what you're doing right now with Freshblends. Share a little bit more about that business, and you've had some great success. Tell us more about that business.
So, Freshblends was a concept that was contemplated out of some work that we were doing with Disney World in Orlando. And it was a machine that was built by another manufacturer, and they were selling a bag-in-the-box smoothie product and, easy, high volume, and we were selling some product to them. So when we exited that business in 2015, we said, let's find a way to be able to sell into that niche, which is high volume, easy access. You don't need a lot of, or you don't need a major labor component to make the drinks, which, quite frankly, if you go to a smoothie shop today, you'll see that that's their number one hurdle, is the operational component of making the drinks. So we wanted to take that out of the equation and make this thing super efficient for convenience stores, for quick serve restaurant chains, and groups that didn't have that ability to have the additional labor to make a smoothie product. So we developed the first self-serve smoothie machine. And essentially what that is a fully self-standing machine that, with the water, power, and a drain source, you can be in the smoothie business.
That's incredible.
So you put the purees in the refrigerated cabinet. You have an ice maker up top. You have a user interface where you can choose the drink you want. And then as long as you have a cup, you can make a smoothie. So it's a pretty dynamic system that's been developed by our partner, Wellbuilt. And the idea is that it gives pretty much any storefront or any office environment the ability to make frozen drinks, smoothies, frappes, milkshakes, things that you would normally need a lot of different components to.
Sure, sure. No, thank you. And I'm excited to hear you share that with everybody. I've had the product. It's delicious. It is unbelievably simple to make your own smoothie. So I think that's incredible, and it's exciting. When you either think about the current or the recent challenges for the Freshblends business, what were those, and how'd you solve them, or what are some of the things that you're attacking right now that got you scratching your head a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the real challenge was the challenge that everybody had in 2020, and that was that we launched the program into a large convenience store chain in the end of 2018 and sort of beginning of 2019. We grabbed a lot of momentum. In fact, QSR Magazine ranked Quick Trip with a K in Wisconsin, our large customer. It ranked their frozen beverage program in 2019 as the frozen beverage program of the year with our machine.
Wow.
So that was kind of cool. We had a lot of momentum going into 2020, a lot of customers that wanted to test and, do different things, with the program. And then obviously COVID hit. So it really crippled the CapEx spending capability of a lot of these chains. And so we had this huge challenge of figuring out, how do we maintain, but also, keep this growth momentum going. So, we did the obvious. We just cut back for a short period of time. And then when things normalized at the end of 2020, beginning of 21, we put the plunger back down. So obviously that was the most challenging. Secondarily, our partner, Wellbuilt, which is one of the largest food service equipment manufacturers in the world. So they went from being Manitowoc Food Service to being a separate public company under the name Wellbuilt to recently, about a year and a half ago, being acquired by Ollie Group, which is now the largest food service equipment manufacturer in the world. So, the ebbs and flows of these changes and new dynamics with different management and different, boards and that sort of thing that have, quite frankly, different mentalities on what they want out of the business. So Wellbuilt was a public company. Yeah. So everything they did was all about the quarterly benefit, right? They needed to have good quarterly numbers every time they released their earnings to Wall Street. So the entire business was built around that, as was the pressure on us to perform quarterly numbers. So now Ollie comes in. Their mentality is, okay, we're not public. We're privately held by one main family, and we can invest over a longer time horizon. We don't need this immediate benefit, immediate impact with everything we do. However, we like to make money. Yeah. So, it was, different but the same. So it's different, ebbs and flows of dealing with different ownership structures and essentially what becomes a different company has been extremely challenging. I don't want to say difficult, but challenging.
Well, no, that's interesting, right? You have all of these business dynamics, whether they're economic dynamics, route to market dynamics, partnership, key partners in your business, changing ownership, potentially changing structure, changing what's most important to them, and your ability to be flexible enough in an early stage business that has its fragility to it, right? Because of where it is in its maturation cycle. That's a real challenge. So you guys seem to have navigated it quite well. What do you attribute that to, though, Jamie? Is it your team? Is it the relationship that you quickly had with Ollie? How do you navigate those things?
No, I think that team first and foremost, right? So we've been doing this together as a group for 21 years now, since 2003. So our key management, our key ownership is the same. We have a few different team members in different areas, but for the most part, it's the same core team. And from challenges of the financial crisis, challenges of COVID, challenges of startup, back in 2003. We've dealt with these hurdles, we've dealt with these challenges, and we all kind of know what it takes. So when that time comes again, we just lean in and we figure out okay, what's the pivot? What do we have to do here to make this work? And we all set our sights on it and attack it. Right?
That's great. And the conversations that we have every day in the marketplace, and people go back to that, the talent in corporate America. They've gotten this amazing training, right? They've got blue chip training in their careers. Now they're really starting to assess whether or not they're going to stay that path, or they're going to start to get into some smaller businesses and maybe ultimately learn enough and get enough confidence and maybe enough investment or cash on their own to start something. So they're really curious about how to be successful in that environment. You just said something, though, that I want you to spend a minute more on, please, right? 21 years with this group of people that you guys know each other quite well. So I'm sure there's some advantages to that. How do you ensure also that you guys you don't know each other so well that you're making sure that you're continuing to get some outside perspective and outside creativity that maybe doesn't exist in that core group? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's a really good point. And in fact, we're going through that right now. So we realized about 4 or 5 months ago that, our team was becoming a little, what's the word? Comfortable. Everything's okay. Everybody's doing fine.
Yeah.
The two words, hunger and fear.
Yeah.
Right. So
go back.
take one of them away. They don't have fear because they're comfortable.
Yeah.
But the hunger, right? How do you reinvigorate the hunger? Yeah. How do you get that component back? So we actually just hired 2 new CEOs. And the first CEO was our former CFO when we did the Tropics exit. And so he just did an exit with the company that bought Tropics into a bigger group. And, he's looking to get back into the fold, right? And, being that he's been with a bigger company, he's now exited, a small deal with ours, a bigger deal with Evolution. We think he's the perfect guy to bring in and sort of navigate us through, not only the next exit cycle, but the next sort of reinvigoration of the team, right? How do we find those new people or those hungry members that haven't been a part of it? Tough to do with the existing team that you have, because they're not looking in the same area that a new guy would. And the second CEO is for a new venture that's a spin-off of Freshblends, but we can get into that in another podcast.
What other things are on your mind, Jamie, that are really kind of core components? I love the foundation of hunger and fear, but as you're providing advice to, whether it be people that are newer in their professional career, earlier stage, or people that have been around for a while and they're making a major transition to do something on their own, what other advice do you have for them?
I always say, you really have to look inside and say what drives you, right? Yeah. What is your end goal? What's your end game, right? And if your end game is to have a nice retirement, with a nice 401k plan and, be comfortable, venturing into that entrepreneurial water is probably not what I would suggest, right? If your end game is to be truly financially independent, you want to get involved in setting up your own family's charitable foundation, you want to do things that are a little otherworldly from what all your friends are doing, you're probably going to have to take a little more risk to get there.
Yeah.
right? The 401k probably won't grow fast enough to get you there.
Yeah.
So, it just really is about what drives you, what's your inner voice telling you. And sometimes it's misguiding.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you have to have that compass that sort of reads it or doesn't read it and send you in the right direction. But, entrepreneurial success can mean a lot of things too, right? It doesn't have to mean that you have some huge exit and you make a ton of money. It can be fulfilling, right? Where, you are an attorney and you just decide that you want to have your own practice and do your own thing because you now set your own schedule. You're not working, on the partner schedule, and, you don't have to bill a certain number of hours to, check the box every month. You just are comfortable doing the type of work that you do and you love the hell out of it. So you can be an entrepreneur that way too.
You've been an entrepreneur basically your whole life, right? Really?
That's true. Was saved for a few years, but yes.
Yeah, I know you really have, and I know you've started to even expand further out in some entrepreneurial endeavors. You want to share a little bit about what you're doing now?
So a good friend of mine who's been in the restaurant, nightclub, and bar business for 30 years in Ohio called me about a year ago and said, "Hey, I have this opportunity to buy a restaurant in Delray. What do you think? You've lived there for 23 years, and your opinion means a lot." And I said, "Well, which restaurant are we talking about?" And he said, "It's called Salt 7. I said, "Okay, yeah, I know it well." He said, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "Well, it used to be the hottest place in Delray, but, they've fallen on some hard times. And I think ownership moved their focus to their Fort Lauderdale location. And so, the management has kind of taken their eye off the ball. It's going to be a turnaround story." I said, "Okay, let's dig in and see if it makes sense." So, I think being the entrepreneur that I am, I think it was a new challenge.
Sure.
It was nice to have this association with somebody who's been doing it for 30 years. So it wasn't, a total risk that I felt, that I was out on a limb. So, we jumped into the restaurant business. So we're now restaurateurs as well.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I got to say, man, you just said, hunger and fear. We've talked about hunger and fear here. And when I first saw you and you told me what you were doing, the excitement in your eyes, right? You were fired up about it because, hey, this is Salt 7, unbelievably beautiful corner, maybe the hottest corner on Atlantic Avenue in Delray Beach, which is an amazingly beautiful area that you've lived in for 25 years. I've been here for a couple years now. And immediately, while you still had the twinkle in your eye of the excitement and the hunger, you started focusing on, all right, now we got to do these things and these things. And so I heard, the positive and the exciting fear in your voice as well. So, man, congratulations.
Yeah,
good luck. I know that's a big deal. And look, Jamie, we really appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your story and some of your knowledge. And I guess as we kind of wrap this up, let's go back to those two words, hunger and fear. When you think right this moment from a Jamie Day perspective, and you sit there and you go, where are my hunger and fear quotient and why? Where are they today?
Yeah, I mean, it's completely different. When we started, the hunger was financial independence, and now it's, really wanting to have a legacy. A legacy with a foundation, a family foundation, a legacy with, setting my kids up properly in the world, making sure they're on the right path, and, finishing what we started.
Yeah.
Right? Like really bringing it to a conclusion for not only ourselves, but, the team that we've built over the years, so that they can also have that mind, that free mind of financial independence and, be able to take care of their families. So, we want to send them off the right way as well. The fear, look, the fear we wake up with every day. I mean, except now some of those fears have shifted, right? We're getting old, and the fears are health and, health and wellness, I guess. So not as much as they were related to the business, but more personal.
No, that's incredible. Jamie, thanks for coming on, buddy.
Hey, appreciate it.
Great to have you. This is incredible. I'm Michael Bitar. This has been Cracking the Code with Jamie Day.